Hi everyone, so today we're going to take a look at our UV range. So the first bulb we're going to be speaking about is the 5-watt bulb, and the second light we're going to speak about is the 70-watt UV floodlight 2. We're just going to cover some of the specifications and features of each light. So we're going to go through the bulb first and then the floodlight, so we'll plug this in later so we can take a look. And then we're going to go through, talk about UV light, some of the kind of questions anybody has about UV light, its uses, is it dangerous, and then we're going to answer some of the most common questions we get about our lights on our Amazon page. So first of all, just going to kind of talk about UV light first. These two bulbs actually are within the UVA range. So UV light is divided into 3 ranges, so UVA, UVB and UVC. So both of these lights emit a light within the UVA range. This means that kind of it's lower intensity and the wavelengths are longer, so it's less harmful to your skin or eyes than UVB or UVC. So kind of some of the uses for UVA, it's kind of in the common world, it's kind of used for parties, illuminating neon paint, or kind of checking money or anything like that. So it's kind of has some common usages in nightclubs and stuff, and also for decorations at parties or something. So in terms of the intensity, some people are kind of worried about UVA. Because this bulb's kind of wattage is quite low, the intensity will be much lower in comparison to, say, something like a tanning bed. A tanning bed kind of comes in around 3,000 watts, and this is only 5 watts. This would be 70 watts. So the intensity comparison is kind of it's much lower coming from both of these two lights in comparison to a tanning bed, where the intensity is quite high and can be dangerous. They both use UVA, but kind of the intensity is so much lower coming from the bulbs in comparison to a tanning bed or something like that, that is kind of negligible, as they aren't that dangerous, especially in the kind of ways common people will be using these. So then we're just going to kind of see, what does black light do? So UVA is also known as black light. Some of the common usages, you use it to shine on materials containing phosphor or neon, like neon paint or something. It's just used to kind of spot fake money and stuff like that. So it's just like a common usage for UV light. Clothes glowing in UV light. So this is kind of a common thing that happens when you kind of go into a nightclub or somewhere like that, or somewhere that's being lit by UV light. Usually your white clothes will illuminate under the UV light, especially the laces on your shoes or your t-shirt, something like this. It kind of illuminates not because of the actual clothes working under UV light, it's actually the chemicals within the clothes. So kind of the brightening chemicals and things like that they use to make your white clothes kind of illuminated better in the daylight. This is actually highlighted better under UV light as well. So it's more of a chemical reaction from the fabric. It's not actually the kind of clothes being illuminated under UV light. So now we're going to take a brief look and go through some of the specifications and features of the 5-watt UV bulb. So it actually comes in a 2-pack. So when you buy this, there's actually 2 5-watt bulbs. So this is kind of good for illuminating a room or kind of a small decoration, or kind of like a neon poster or something. It can be used for parties too. Just you maybe need more to illuminate the whole room, as they're not that bright. There's not that much output from them, as they're only 5 watts. The beam angle coming from this bulb itself is actually 180 degrees. So as you can kind of see, it's well, if we turn the lights off, the beam will kind of cover a wider space than what will come out from the floodlight. So the 180 degree beam angle makes the intensity of the beam coming from this light much lower than, say, the intensity coming from the 70-watt light. So if it's spread out 5 watts, kind of the intensity spread over 180 degrees, the intensity and concentration of the beam will be quite low if you measured it within the middle or the outer kind of measurements of the beam. The bulb itself has a 25,000 hour lifespan, so it can be used kind of long term in parties and stuff as well, left on for a long time, as the light is kind of durable and long lasting. Taking a closer look at the design of the light, you can see that the body is hollow and kind of has slits in it to promote air convection. This is all about moving the heat away from the kind of LED chips on the top of the bulb. So if we you can't really see on the camera, but actually there's a heat sink on the top of the bulb here within the kind of donut shape. The ceramic heatsink is used just to directly attach the LED chips onto the ceramic body. So this is kind of to reduce the need for thermal adhesives or PCB boards, which is kind of used in other LED lights. So the LED chips for the Sansi UV bulb is like the other Sansi products. The chip is just directly attached onto the ceramic body. This is good for kind of creating less heat within the bulb and making the bulb last longer. Now we're just going to kind of talk through some of the questions we get on our Amazon page regarding the 5-watt bulb. So our most common question is it compatible with 220 volts? This light is not actually compatible with 220, it's compatible with 120 volts. So if you have kind of a higher voltage of 220, you may need to get a transformer or some kind of machine that can swap the current and the voltage through to make it work. And the second most common question we get actually is, does it illuminate white clothes? This was kind of spoken about earlier. We'll cover it again just to kind of make sure the point is covered. Yes, it will illuminate white clothes, any kind of white clothes, socks, laces or anything. They will probably illuminate, but it's not because of the white clothes themselves. It's actually the chemicals within kind of detergents or the fabric when they made the clothes. So your white clothes will shine under it, but it's not because it's white. It's more because of the chemicals that they go through the process to make the object white. And now we're just going to cover this 70-watt floodlight. So I'm going to swap the lights and then plug in the 70 watts so you can get a better look at what the 70-watt looks like when it's illuminated. And then we can kind of go through the specifications and some of the features of the 70-watt light as well. So I'll just swap the lights now. Okay, so after plugging in the 70-watt, I'll kind of swap places so it's better on camera. You can see that the 70-watt has a total of 12 heat sinks, so 3 or 4 across the top and 3 down the bottom. It puts out quite a lot of light, especially for like a garden party or a room party. It will kind of illuminate a lot more than the 5-watt bulb, as this is kind of 70 watts, so it will be a bit more, it will be brighter obviously. In terms of some of the specifications of the light, the beam angle for this light is actually 60 degrees. So if I pick it up from the bracket, you can see that the beam is actually quite intense and highly concentrated in the center. This is because it's actually coming out at 60 degrees as opposed to the 5-watt bulb, which is 180 degrees. So it will be more intense as well, and the light will kind of cover just less space, so it'll be focused in on 60 degrees. So as we go through a few more specifications, it's 70 watts, obviously we spoke about before, and then the IP rating of this bulb, of this light is actually IP65. So it's the same kind of outdoor rating as our other floodlights. So it's both waterproof and dustproof to quite a high extent. IP65 is quite a high rating for kind of durability as well. So you can definitely have this outside your home if you're doing kind of outdoors, neon parties or anything like that. The durability is quite high with IP65. It should be waterproof, especially from kind of jet sprays or anything. So rain and snow and stuff, it should carry on working perfectly fine and last the whole lifespan it's intended to. So the lifetime of the light is actually 30,000 hours, so it's 5,000 more than the 5-watt bulb, so this is good. It's kind of a longer lasting, brighter option for people that are kind of looking for more UV light than if they were just to buy a small bulb. And then the actual body of the light, as you can see, is kind of a similar design to the bulb. It's all about moving the heat away from the heat sinks and the LED chips on the top of the light. The body is hollow. It's kind of a hard plastic frame with a metal kind of bracket on the back, so you can kind of hang it or install it wherever you need to. It was a very similar design to our other floodlights. It just puts out a different kind of light of UV. So now we're just going to cover some of the questions we get regarding this light too on our Amazon page. The most common question we got regarding this was, what is the peak wavelength of this light? The peak wavelength that comes from this light is 396 nanometers. So this is just quite low even within the UVA range. So the intensity and kind of the wavelength will be lower, so it's not very harmful at all. Does it contain much visible light? This is kind of related again to the peak wavelength of the light. So because it only peaks at 396 nanometers, there won't be a lot of visible light coming from this because the wavelength is lower and it's like is just kind of lower than visible light, so there won't be a lot of visible light coming from this, so you can kind of use it for dark rooms and kind of illuminating neon paints and stuff. There won't be a lot of kind of other light coming through if you're filming as well. So both of these lights actually have a discount currently on Amazon.